Hello and welcome back to the Remembering Tuscola webcast. I'm David Porter. I'm here with
Mm.
this is uh not Mike Carroll and Bill Englehart. These are the people who would play Mike Carroll and Bill Englehart in the movies if we had a movie made. So we've got Bob Taylor and Alan Michener with us today, or depending on which way you're looking at it, could be
Yeah.
Alan Michener and Bob Taylor.
Mm.
You go in one direction or another. And So, welcome to the show, and a couple more Tuscola's uh, finest. Alan was for many years associated with F.H. Jones Lumber Company, and long, long family roots. And Bob has uh, been around, also from Tuscola, local graduates. And Bob's been involved in sports all of his life with mentoring kids and. What else you guys want to tell people about yourselves?
Well, you about it covered. I spent uh, born and raised in Tuscola. I wasn't fortunate enough to be born a German, but I was born in Champaign, but in 1947. And
I'm a Jarman baby.
you are a German baby. Well, yeah, there was a lot of them,
Yeah.
but I was here and lived over on Houghton Street, across from the courthouse until I was about 6 years old, and then later moved to 606 South Niles, which was the family home. I moved there with my parents when I was in first grade, and then left in 1965 to go away to school. And after that, I was drafted into the U.S. Army, spent 18 glorious months in Uijeonbu, Korea. Very fortunate because at that time most of us were all headed to Vietnam. In fact, I'd even had orders for Vietnam, and we got our orders canceled after about 3 days and shipped us all to Korea due to the Pueblo incident, which was a case where the North Koreans captured a U.S. ship, and they thought they were going to have trouble over there, so they shipped us all to Korea. And I spent, uh, I got over there, and I worked as an MP for about 2 or 3 months, and later one of the officers asked me if I wanted to be a clerk in the motor pool, and I said, "You bet." So I spent rest of my time being the Larry Niece of Uijeonbu, the parts man, So I did that, came back, lived in Carbondale for a while, worked for a clothing store down there, and then later went to work for a company called National Mobile Homes in Anna, Illinois. And
Okay.
I was there for probably a year and a half or so. And my dad called me one day, and he was going to be about 65 and said he was tired and ready to retire and wanted to know if I was interested in coming back. And so I said, well, yeah, I think I would. At that time, I had a baby on the way, and I thought, well, small town may be the right spot. So I came back and went into business with him, and he stayed around and helped make the transition for a number of years. And used to, even though if it got real busy, he always wanted to sort of escape. But he came up and we set him up with a cable TV so he could watch the Cubs baseball games. So he spent the rest of the time. And so anyway, I was there until we sold the lumberyard to Jim Higgins in 2009, and I continued to work for Jim for till 2011 when I retired from the new store, and that's pretty much the story of me.
When you're down in Anna, you ever run into a guy named Jerry Rippert?
Don't remember the name.
His
No.
family owned the newspaper there.
Okay.
He's
Okay.
he's a good friend of mine.
Yeah. 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 This plant that I was actually a sales rep for them, so I did some traveling. A lot of it was phone work, but we sold mobile homes all over. Well, Kentucky, Tennessee, Missouri, some Indiana, mostly in Illinois. And so I was calling on dealers, most of the time. So I was around, but the plant itself was just located about just on the north side of Anna. Like if you're going to Cobden, if you're familiar with the area.
Yeah, there. I don't know if it's still there. It used to have a really cool little museum at Cobden. Um,
Yeah, well, they might still have that. I've
when I
been
was
there.
in college, they still had uh, they had skeletons of Native Americans on display that they had excavated. I'm pretty sure they don't do that anymore.
I bet not. I
That
bet
is
they don't do that
that is
anymore.
that is not politically correct.
Yeah, that area. The last time I was through there, it was pretty heavily Hispanic,
Mm,
and I think that all had to do because of the apples,
mm.
the Cobden apple knockers, and all that. But I just noticed that. But it's been several years. My wife and I were coming back from down south one time, and I wanted to drive through, and I'd been there. Well, let's see. My oldest son was married in Carbondale in 2000, and so I was there then. But the town's really changed a lot. But I was there in Carbondale. I was there as a student, and then later on, I was there as a citizen of the community. And it's really two totally separate, different
Oh,
worlds.
I'm sure.
but it was. I always liked Carbondale. Now everybody they talk about it being a lot different now than it was then. And
I was there for a year in college and lived at Abbott Hall on Thompson Point.
yeah, know where that
And
was. Yeah,
yeah, I loved getting out and exploring a lot of caves and woods and
and
uh, Little Grand Canyon and
I'm sure you were at Macanda.
oh yeah, we used to hike to Macanda
Yeah,
and go down the railroad track and go down and see all the hippies down at Macanda
yeah, yeah,
and get some ice cream and uh,
yeah. Well, I did stop there though. I think when I was coming through, I lived well when I was down there living in that area. I lived in a Cedar Lane trailer court, which was just south on South 51 at that time, which they moved. I had trouble when I went through there last time because they moved Route 51, and it now ends up around the SIU arena. And before it went straight south, and I never could find that little trailer court that I used to live in. But that was during the time that I was in school down there. That these mobile home parks were where all the students lived. Or seemed like a lot of them
yeah,
lived there,
right.
and it was inexpensive housing.
Paul Simon lived at the senator. Paul Simon lived at Macanda.
Yeah,
About halfway between Carbondale and Macanda was a little town called Bosquedale.
yeah.
I don't think there's anything there now, but it used to be a rock quarry, I think,
Could have been. Could have been. I remember the name
or
of
a
that town.
stone quarry.
Yeah.
So somebody keeps
Giving you a little insight.
yeah, just well we're unscripted and life goes on and so Bob, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, much like Alan, I was actually born in German, and I was adopted by Paul and Ruby Taylor, and they lived in Ficklin for the first 3 years of my life, and then moved to Tuscola, and that's when I met Alan and Max Albritton and Tim Limna and Jim Wright, and we have all been friends ever since then, which is pretty amazing over the course of 75 years.
Yeah.
And I graduated from high school here, went to Southern for a year, and really I had no clue as to what I wanted to do when I got out of high school. And I basically went down there for a year just to appease my parents. And after the year down there, decided to get married and to Shirley Weber, who was Quentin Weber's daughter. And we had dated off and on all through school. So we got married in 1966. And then I got drafted and spent 2 years down in Fort Polk, Louisiana for 2 years. Came back here. My dad, he was a Sinclair distributor. So I worked for him for a while when I first came back. And then Shirley and I had an opportunity to buy the Montgomery Ward catalog store. And we bought it in 1973. And that was, let's see, we'd had 2 children by then. And in 1980, our youngest, Heather, was going into preschool. And Shirley said, I think I need to go out and get a job with some benefits. And we decided that maybe it would be better if I went out and got the job, which I did. I went to university, spent 28 years at the U of I, and retired in 2008. And then Shirley passed away in 2011, so we didn't get to enjoy a lot of retirement together. Right. And always been involved with some type of sport, whether it's baseball, football, or basketball.
Yeah, everybody knows Bob from. I remember in Little League, and just a picture. I hear somebody knocking on the door. Let me see what's going on.
Must be it.
Okay.
Oh, look at that! It's Bill.
Oh, holy cow! Look
Bill,
at there.
Bill, I thought you weren't going to be here today. Bill Englehardt has joined us.
I tell you what, I got a little suspicious. Suspicious. I listened to Carroll too often, and he told me a long time ago, he said, I'm telling you, there's people out there that they would like to have their picture. Can you see the picture?
Yeah.
They want that picture in the paper, along with all the big money that goes with it.
Right.
He said, you never know who's going to undercut you.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right.
Now I see them. Now I know who they are.
Yeah.
Well, I know you guys complain that I don't pay you, but these guys are paying me.
Yeah.
That figures. Well, by the way, you better check the signatures.
Better. So you're here to protect your turf.
A little bit.
That's
Actually,
right.
No, it's I've been told to respect my elders, and those 2 are my elders.
Yeah, just a little elder. Just a little elder. Not that elder.
We go back a little bit, David. Alan and I were on the 1956 Rotary Indians championship team.
I have that picture.
That's a good picture. And somewhere in there was Bob on the Cardinals, I believe,
Right. Yeah.
hanging out with Mike Carroll on that team.
Oh, geez, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we should, let people know that the reports of Mike Carroll's death are greatly exaggerated. He'll be back.
Exaggerated.
He'll be back when he's feeling a little better. He was not feeling well last week, and we gave him a week off to recover, and so we hope to see him back pretty soon.
Well, I've been looking around for a new partner, but I don't think anyone can tell the stories like Mike. And if they're not true, these boys would tell you. It doesn't matter. He'll tell them anyway.
That's right. That's right. Well, that's why we're here. We're here to straighten those stories out and get the real story.
Get the real story. Oh my goodness.
That's what Alan told me whenever I asked him to come on. He says, yeah, he'd like to come on and set the record straight on a few things.
Yeah. We always, Bob and I always listen to the show, and then we look at each other and go, I don't remember it that way.
Well, Mike doesn't exaggerate. He just remembers big.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's
That's
right.
right.
It kind of sounds good when it happens. I just
Well,
went
yeah.
along with it.
Well,
Yeah.
as Judge Lincoln told me a long time ago, I was telling a story, and he said, I said, no, that's not the way it went. It was this way. And he said, it doesn't make any difference. It's your story. Tell it however you want. So
Yeah,
I think that must be, they learned that in law school.
yeah.
Evidently, they must be all the same.
Yeah, that's right.
All the same. Well,
Well,
we've had David. We've had comments, as you know, from Alan and Bob have sent in. They have that advantage of looking at that Facebook the day before, so they get these stories all straight. You know.
Well, that's
you
right.
mentioned, Alan just mentioned Frank Lincoln, and Frank married me the first time, and Mike married me the second time. So we'll see
Yeah.
which one lasts the longest. First one was 22 years. We're at about 10 and a half now.
Well,
So
I think you're doing all right now, David.
You're doing all right. Yeah.
yeah,
Got you a Tuscola girl. That's good.
yeah.
Uh, so, how's the business here going, David? I'm telling you, I know these guys were impressed if they saw Harlan in the paper here. My goodness, Harlan Porter and his book report. Good for you.
Well, I debated with myself whether to put a story in the paper, but I figured we'd do it for anybody else.
Sure, you would.
That's right.
I wondered if Bob and Alan had ever thought about how many authors we have. They might know of somebody else that's written books that we don't know about.
Well, that's
Dick Gallagher.
true. Of course, we all know that Caldwell did.
Very much so. Class
Yeah.
of 65.
Yeah,
Mike,
he's done.
I think Carnine has.
Yeah, and I think Doug Carnine has.
I heard Mike say one time he's written on education something
Yeah.
like 40
Well,
books or something.
Yeah, I
I
read
think-
someplace where he was, he lives, of course, it lives out in Oregon, but he'd been involved with the Department of Education out in Washington D.C. in Washington D.C.
I think he was in the Bush administration.
Could have been.
No child left behind.
Yeah.
Was it?
Mhm.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that, but I
Me neither.
yeah, as a local educator or a local educator's husband, I can tell you somebody that didn't agree with it.
Oh, believe
Yeah.
me, as that person's co-worker, no, she didn't like it.
No, she didn't think that was the way.
Oh,
No, that wasn't the way to do it.
Dawn Kimball, I don't know her married name, but last I knew, she was out writing children's books out on the Pacific Northwest, and so that's no. We got Dick Gallagher has some books out, and there's a bunch of them.
Right.
Yeah, very good. That speaks well for the Tuscola schools over the years.
Alan and I were just talking this morning about getting Max onto a project of going back over the years
Mm.
and finding different people out of at least one person or two out of each class that has really succeeded at a very high level. And, there are a lot of people from here that have done that.
Yeah, sometimes when I see the Hall of Fame people and I start reading about what they've done, it's like, holy cow,
Yes.
I'll never make it into this group.
Yeah, it's
No.
that me. I'm the same
Yeah.
way. But
Yeah.
I was telling Bob, we were talking about that, and the first one that comes to my mind, and I can't get back much farther than this. It was 1949, and the only reason I knew this guy because he was a fellow class member of my sister, Bill McCarty, Patty Waters, that group.
Hmm.
His name was Gerhard Frecky,
Oh, yeah.
and he would have been Doug McCumber's
Uncle.
yeah. Anyway, that guy, my sister talked about him, was really a nice guy. She was in school with him. They were in band together and everything. And he went on to become, before the Bell telephone breakup, he
Mhm.
went on. He was president of Southwestern Bell,
Yeah.
Oh,
which was pretty big time, And this is just a guy. His dad was the preacher at the Lutheran Church, Reverend Frecky, and his mother lived here for years. I remember seeing me like I might have delivered newspapers to her or something, but anyway, that was a heck of a success story.
Mhm.
And there's other guys. Bob and I talked today about Carl Court.
Mhm.
Of course, Carl Court, the father was our band instructor for years at the high school. But then his son, Carl Jr., I guess, I know he had some big time involvement with Kodak
Mhm.
at one time. I mean, he was.
I think he was something in the title of vice president of something for
Yeah,
Kodak.
yes, he was. He
Yeah.
was. And then the other one that we talked about was Maury Reese.
Mm-hmm.
He was about a number 3 man in Apple Computers when Apple Computers was nothing. So
Yeah.
he, they're just. It's just interesting to think about some of those people that came from a little town. I mean, we're
yeah.
pretty small. We're pretty small fish in the big sea,
Mhm.
And these people went on to do some pretty unbelievable
One of
things.
the most famous people from Tuscola didn't wasn't born here, didn't graduate from here, but sitting behind me, Uncle Joe Cannon.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Mhm.
His parents' house is right across the corner from where I live right now.
Right. Right. That's true.
Speaker of the
Well,
House.
we think about, and this gets way back, way before my time, but make about the Smiley
Yeah.
Burnett.
Mhm.
He wasn't necessarily from here, but he had some ties to Tuscola and used to
Very
visit
much so,
and
really.
visit here periodically.
He would come, as we all know, there at the old North Ward, what we call North Ward, catty corner where Spillman's live now, is
Right.
where the Bushes lived.
Yes.
And he would come there in that big Cadillac, but he'd
Yeah.
always walk uptown, go uptown, see Gus.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Always do that.
Yeah.
So, and there's other famous people. Bob Taylor's the oldest coach that's ever coached.
Yeah.
And that's your fault, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my fault. Yeah, I did that. And I'm trying to catch him on the record.
Yeah.
We're still working with the
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah, you're both still coaching.
Yeah, we're still working.
You talk about thinking about oldest athletes. Remember when Gene Maloney used to be in the Senior Olympics?
Through the discus.
Yeah, he was in his 90s, I think, when he was
Yes, he
doing
did.
that. Yeah, and
He always said
Maloney.
it got easier the older he got because he didn't have any competition.
Yeah. All died.
yeah,
No, we had, and bringing that up, as you too well know, and Mike has reiterated many, many times, the teachers that we had
Oh my!
oh yeah.
were so special. And
Well, he was one of them.
in grade school or high school.
Yeah,
Yes.
the two that I respected more than anybody, and they were probably the most disciplinarians, were Gene Maloney and Dorothy Deere.
Mhm.
Those two, I had all the utmost respect for it.
Mhm.
And it was funny, but I always felt like they dedicated their lives to the children of Tuscola because they had no children of their own.
Right.
So they just dedicated their whole lives to the education department
And of course, Mr. Maloney's wife, Lita,
yeah.
I think taught second grade for I don't know how many years.
Yeah.
She was my second grade teacher.
Was she?
Yeah.
Mine too.
Well, it's funny. I think as you get older, you appreciate the teachers who were the toughest
Yes, you
because you
do.
realize they're the ones that taught you more.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
you're right.
You paid attention anyway if you didn't.
Well, I may
I
not
don't-
go that far
Yeah.
with that statement. No, I did. I did have wonderful teachers, and when I went into the school system as a teacher, we had a lot of wonderful teachers then, and now there's several that I know of that have done some really good things with kids.
But it's funny that when I was in college, I excuse me, took some writing classes and I was getting straight A's. I'd bring them back, show them off to my high school teachers here, say, look at how good I'm doing. And they'd look at it and say, oh, you can do better.
Wouldn't you fellas like to be in Olga Hall's civics class this afternoon or
Yeah.
government class and get a
Yep.
lesson? Wouldn't that be something?
Yes, it
I
would.
can guarantee I'd learn a lot more now than I did then.
Yes.
I know what you're saying, and it would be, like I said, it would be very special because
Yes, it would.
she lays it out on the line.
Yeah.
Wonderful teacher, wonderful person.
You know, something that was really special was when L.H. Mann would come into the 8th grade class and teach the Constitution. He
How
was
about
something-
just L.H. Mann walking down the
Period.
hallway?
Yeah,
He
exactly.
was another one you highly respected.
You
Yes.
highly respect.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, you did.
The old finger, the thing I remember is the old finger and kiddo. He always called you
Kiddo.
kiddo.
That's right. He
Shook
did.
that finger at you, called you kiddo.
Well, go ahead, Bill.
Well, David, I was going to say you're just a few years shy of us, but in the early '80s, when I was teaching at Tuscola, you also had some swell teachers, and
I did.
we've all been fortunate to have gone through the system, especially when we did. It was good time,
Yeah.
and it's something we all remember. And when we mentioned Joe Caldwell, his book, I think really it was so true. I bought that book for all three of my boys because I said, if you want to know what it was like, this is it. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
true.
think any of my teachers are still teaching. Some of my teachers you guys had. You know, Mabel Hull was my second grade teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Olga Hall was one of my teachers.
Yeah.
Butkovich
sure.
was principal when I was in school.
Murray was there.
Murray was there.
Morris,
Yeah.
yeah.
Bucko
Now
Bucko was never principal while we were there. Now he was for you. Was he for you, Bill?
They brought him in my senior year.
Your senior. Okay. Yeah, that's what I
my
thought.
senior year. And then Andrea was a year behind me. She had Daryl Brown
Yes.
because Bucko was teaching sixth grade.
Right. Right.
Remember?
Oh, I remember that. Yeah. Big
Then the
incident.
following year, he was back as principal. Yeah.
Well, I know,
during the time we were in high school, I think we went through Charlie Whalen,
He was
Jack
great.
Jack Robertson,
Yeah.
and I think that was the principals during when we were in high school.
I ended up with three.
Yeah.
Because I had Bucko my senior year, and they said that they put Bucko in at that time. They said for attendance and discipline purposes. That was fine.
Yeah.
And now this is the truth. I know this to be a fact. When they evaluated the state on attendance, Tuscola High School, 1965-66 school year, had the second best attendance for any district under our size, or
Right.
any school under our size. Second best.
Second.
And us guys used to say the best was the Joliet Penitentiary. You didn't want to miss school.
Yeah.
Butkovich was pretty intimidating, and when I was in high school, I had to go see him, which I was scared to do because he was so intimidating. But I got an internship over in Springfield with state government. So I spent a semester my senior year over there, but I had to get his permission to do it. And the program was going to give me 2.5 credits. I only needed half a credit to graduate. So I go and talk to him about it, and he said, all right, well, we'll let you do it, but we're not going to let you have 2.5 credits for it. We're only going to let you have 2 credits. I think now he was joking with me, but at the time it's like, well, what the heck, It's
Yeah, you didn't always seem joking a lot.
no, I mean,
No,
you couldn't tell
no.
if he was joking or not, but then when I got back out of the internship, it ended a week before graduation, and they made me go to school every day for the week, even though I had no classes. I think they got state funding, for people who are in
Probably did.
Right.
Probably
class,
did. Yeah.
but they told me if I had to graduate, I had to come to school every day for that week. And
That sounds
I'm
that
there. I
sounds
have
like
no
it.
class. I just hung out in the industrial art shop and built furniture.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Bucko was quite a guy. He really was. But one of the things that I remember about him, one of the positive things I remember about Bucko, is I never saw a man that loved his wife as much as he did.
You know,
That man for I don't know how many years would visit the cemetery every day.
day.
Every day.
Rosemary was a swell person.
She was, yes.
And I will tell you this because I saw it a couple of different times as I ended up working in the district and he was still principal. She could look at him, turn her head and look at him, and he'd see her look, and whatever he was doing that was a little off key, stop
Yep.
right
Yep.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rosemary,
she really had she's the only one that ever really had control of him.
that might be true. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think my wife has that look.
I think mine did too.
David, have these fellows already identified every picture and every?
We haven't even looked at pictures yet.
We hadn't
Oh,
no,
goodness.
we hadn't
I
even
was
got
gonna say-
started on it yet.
Did
But
you
I-
show these last night? Because they'll make me look like a fool.
Well, you're gonna have to depend a lot on Bob. You've caught an age group there that I'm not as familiar with. Now, some of them I am, but not all of them by any means.
You know, it's funny when you get out of school or when your kids get out of school,
Right.
and all of Alan's boys graduated and from Tuscola, and of course Bob's 2 boys and daughter, they graduated from Tuscola. My 3 graduated from Tuscola. So we see at different times different age groups you become familiar with.
well, most of the
One of the
pictures,
advantages that Bob has now is going into that high school during basketball season every day. You get to know these kids. That's so special. I've got now with a grandson playing ball, I get to know his class. That's pretty special.
Well, that's true. We talked about that before. I told him, I said, Bob knows all the young ones, and I know all the old ones. Yeah.
There you go.
well, I'm pretty bad because this is 1983, so this is my senior year, and a lot of them that I don't know and went to school with them. So
Yeah.
that's you guys probably do better than I would. Well, I know Bill's got an appointment later, so why don't we get through these pictures and then we can chat more if you want to.
That's fine.
And we don't have a ton of pictures this week, so let's take a look.
I'll have to bring this up.
Yeah.
Joyce Alexander on the right,
Yes, it is.
but I don't know the other 2.
I think the one on the left, I cheated, and the only thing I can tell you, I think that was maybe Eckridge or Eskridge.
Eskridge, yeah, Kendra Eskridge. Chris says that's my mom on the left.
Really?
Doesn't
That's
give us
Kendra's
her
mom?
name.
I remember Kendra.
And Eric Alexander says Jackie Kuykendall. Spelled like
Kuykendall. Kuykendall.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. That's
Villa Grove.
Villa Grove name.
Right.
Yeah.
But I recognize the office. You guys probably do too. The background.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
it's a
back
review.
into the old review, right?
Yeah, that's Bob Hastings' office.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that one stumped me. I don't know unless that was out at USI.
You know what? that's what that is. That's a plant.
Yeah, that's what I thought it might have been. But I don't recognize either. And in fact, I can't tell if that person on the right, if that's male or female.
Huh.
I
Yeah, I
looked
don't know.
at,
I don't
I
have
looked,
any comments on this one.
you know,
These A lot of these negatives were 35 millimeter and they don't scan very well, so they're not real sharp. This one, I don't have any. I had several pictures of this. I don't know what was going on, but I didn't get any comments.
what I tell you what I think that one is probably the elevator there, the Douglas County Grain Company elevator. There was a fire there when Chris Hill owned that elevator. He has had a bunch of stuff stored in it, I think. And there was a fire, and I'm wondering if they were trying to inspect that from a fire standpoint, but that was the only thing that I could come up with. I think that's the elevator, though.
Looks like it.
Oh, there we go.
I didn't know if they were taking somebody out or
Well, you know,
practicing or
I don't know if they were practicing. You've got a grain truck inside that elevator. If they had a hot spot up in that elevator, you'd
That
think
could be.
that could be, but
Yeah.
there'd be a different way to get in on the
Well,
side of the. I don't know that they had to take out part of the building to get in there.
Yeah. That thing burnt. I'm thinking in about, I can't remember what year it was. We had a warehouse right across the tracks from that when the night that thing burned, I had to go down and keep an eye on it because it was an all wood structure.
Right.
They were afraid that the ash was going to fly across and catch that building on fire. And I had that building taken down in 1978. So I think that fire was prior, maybe in 77, 76, somewhere in that area.
Well, that's the Middleton brothers sitting there at the table.
Yeah.
And on the right, we've got a Brookins. On the left, we've got, oh gosh, I should know that. The boy.
Oh, that's
Doug Sievers.
Doug Sievers.
It is Doug, isn't it?
Yeah. Doug Sievers is standing in the middle.
Mary Brookins.
Yeah, that's Mary's. Of course, her sister Sandy was in school there. Do we know is that one of the Judy Wright's daughter there on the far left?
Jackie Brookins says Laura Wright Coyle.
That's Laura then, yeah.
Okay.
That's good. I didn't know that one.
Yeah, Laura passed away.
I thought this was probably an Illinois history project, and Rob Middleton says yes, that's what it was.
Although very interesting.
I don't know what bridge that was. I had another picture of another history project I didn't use because it didn't scan well enough, but it was a project that I actually had help with. But that was I think they are still doing that program, aren't they? It was a big deal today.
I don't know if it's it used to be a big deal because Bill Hill was a sponsor for that for
Bill Hill and Linda Hand. And
Linda would help with it. A couple others helped with it too.
There was a project that Rob Gentry did of a 11-sided barn, like a round barn, but it's actually 11-sided. And it won Best of Show at State, and I wrote the report for it, and we won a trip to Washington, D.C. on that project.
Wow.
The only one that I think I know is the little guy back in the corner on the right might be Chris DeLine.
Very possible.
That's who David Henderson says.
Very possible.
But I don't know the others.
No, I don't
girl
either.
on the left behind the cactus is Tina Hall Kestner.
What's the name again?
Tina Hall Kestner.
Tina Hall.
Tina Hall. I knew who she was. Yeah, I remember her.
Okay.
She was married to my classmate Darren Kestner, who died probably a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Her mother was a Lytle.
Yes.
Liz Lytle, yeah.
The boy there is Jared Coatney, I think.
Yeah, I see that now. I see that. I didn't see that earlier, but I think that is Jared.
Jim Coatney's son.
Yes.
Right.
I don't know.
The little girl's pretty excited.
The little girl's pretty excited to be shaking hands with him, though, or whatever she's doing.
Yeah. This is Loretta Coatney says Jared Coatney and Josie Kramer.
Josie Kramer.
Oh, heck
Oh,
yes.
no wonder Josie
Yeah.
Kramer. She was a cute little girl.
She was. She's a good little garden basketball, as I remember, Bob.
Mhm. I would agree, Bill.
I think these pictures were taken at North Ward, which would be the second North Ward.
Right.
Some of the pictures look like, I think it's probably in the auditorium.
Alan, you never went to the real old North Ward, did you?
No. I was that was the wrong side of town.
Wrong side of town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was a South Ender, so I didn't want to be up there with those bad guys on the North End.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
We
He
went up
wasn't
there in
with
the
us.
fifth grade.
No, he's talking about the old.
Oh, the old one. No.
up on
No,
Pembroke.
Yeah.
Right.
The
Yeah,
first
no.
North Ward.
No.
See, Mike and I went all through the old one.
Yeah. That was just wasn't that just a 4-room school?
Yes,
Yeah.
as I remember it.
Yeah.
I remember Ab Taylor was a custodian.
Yeah.
I remember Mrs. Wakefield. Mrs. Roderick was acting principal. Bess Bundy
Yes.
taught there.
You know, Bill, Ab Taylor was a brother to my grandpa Taylor.
Seriously.
Yes.
Huh.
Yes.
Tell you what, that's something.
Yeah.
I don't have any names on this one, but you can see this, the seating from the auditorium at North.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we were just talking about that the other day. That was quite a facility. That
I love
auditorium.
that building.
Yeah, the auditorium and with the balcony above and the stage, and it was pretty. It had to be pretty state of the art when it was built.
1922 Cornerstone, I believe.
Yeah.
This is the school my mother actually graduated high school in this building, and then I went kindergarten through 5th grade in this building.
Yeah. See, they added that addition on. I don't know what year that was added on, but I went through South Ward till the 5th grade, and then the 5th grade moved over there. And then I came back to South Ward for 6th grade, and then went back to the North Ward for 7th and 8th. So that was it.
With me, I got out of the 4th grade and went directly to North Ward, and I was there for grades 5. That was in the annex, grade 5.
Right.
6th was on the bottom floor with George Trout. 7th was Sharon Weiss. 8th grade homeroom teacher was Jim Chaplin on the 3rd floor.
Speaking of that, do you remember what year Murray came?
It was when I was in the 6th grade and you were in the 7th, I believe.
Okay, that's what we thought. Because the teacher that I had in the 7th grade was Jan Lou Lynn was her name, and she was Phil Morris's sister. Phil Morris's older sister. So daughter of Johnny and Frida Morris.
Well, you remember over there at what I call the North Ward, Carl Henning taught.
Yes.
There was a great big guy named Elmer Broyles.
Yes. I remember that last name, Mr. Broyles. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Broyles. But Murray came, and of course, he was just a kid out of the Army, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. You know? Well, I think he took over the 2nd semester. That Jan Lenz was pregnant at the time, and she only taught 1 semester. And I think I can't remember who my 2nd semester teacher was, but I think it must have been Murray.
It was. And you know what happened? You know how that came about? The high school principal was Kenny Michaels.
Yes.
Okay, so Murray gets out of the Army. Who did Murray play basketball for in high school up north, Winnebago? Kenny Michaels.
Oh, yeah.
That was her connection.
Yeah.
I was in the last 5th grade class that went to this school. 5th grade went over to East Prairie after that.
Really? Okay.
East Prairie opened in January '69.
That little girl, Shelby, the first little girl was Shelby Best. I know. I remember when she was that age. So I don't know. I don't know who the other little girl is, but I know that's Shelby.
It's quite a project.
Yeah, I can't. They must have been laying something out,
Mm-hmm.
painting or something from an art class, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have the other name either. Here's that project again.
Yeah, same kid.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Ooh, I didn't see that one before.
I recognize a few of these.
I see Lee Grimm, the front row, second in, and right
Yeah,
behind
that's-
him, over his left shoulder, is Carl Rentz.
Carl Rentz. You're right. Well, that's Brent John standing on the outside of him,
Okay.
I believe. This is kind of fuzzy.
Yeah, it's not great.
Is that
Yeah.
little? Is that the little
The
girl?
girl in the middle is Dana Stinger.
I was going to say it's Dana.
I guess not.
Okay, yeah, I see it
Might
now.
be a Boris next to her, but it looks like
Tim?
maybe Tim. And then Dan
Janitor.
Doug?
Dan Coyle next to
That could
him.
be.
That's Doug Williamson back there.
Yes, it
guys.
is. That's what
Doug
Mom and I
Williamson in
just
the
said.
back.
Yeah, that's Doug.
Yeah, that's there. And then on
Well,
the
I
far
tell you what.
left, looks like Teresa Reed to me.
I can't tell.
Doug's son, Matthew, looks just like him.
Does he talk like him?
No.
Doug's been at the school for about 25 years. He did his job interview with me when he started.
What a great guy.
Oh, yeah.
I've told Doug you should go to Hollywood, and that voice would be in demand for cartoon voiceovers.
Oh, I wouldn't it though? Yeah.
My grandson Dylan could do a perfect imitation of him. Absolutely perfect.
Doug is a little younger than me. I remember being in high school with him, and he was just a really, really nice guy.
Yeah.
I never have met anybody that didn't think that about him. I thought everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And a hard worker.
And he worked hard.
Oh yeah, he was a hard worker, and he learned how to work hard from the days of his family, or he and his dad used to raise hogs all the time.
And his dad was Bob, right?
Yes, yeah. But yeah, he learned the hard work from the farm. There's no doubt about that.
Bill, when I started coaching at the junior high, he was a custodian there.
Yeah.
And every night that we had an away game, he was waiting at the door for us to get off the bus.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. And
that's great.
He had a saying though. He said, "All you have to do is score one more point than the other team."
He had that part right.
Yeah, he did. Good man. Good man.
This is most of the same group. Ron Brown, Dan Coyle, Carl Rentz, Lee Grimm was in my class. Dana's there. A lot of comments on Facebook.
Yeah.
There's Dan.
His mother was secretary at high school.
Who's that?
Coyle.
Oh, Dan. Oh, yeah, Jerry.
Jerry Coyle.
Yeah, I remember
her. My son-in-law that's married to Heather, his aunt is Sandy Coyle, had married Jerry's husband, Don, after they separated.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
Jerry used to work for Steve Hilgendorf when he was at Tuscola Lumber Company.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Or I'd forgotten it.
Yep.
I know a lot of these.
Back row,
Yep.
one in is Jimmy Clark.
Jim Clark's president of the school board at Villa Grove.
Yeah.
Huh. Didn't know that.
Yeah. And the first one on the left is Alan Weaver.
Okay.
You're right. Alan
Okay.
Weaver was grade school basketball manager for Jeff Butler. Gosh, those girls look familiar.
Third one's Bob Davis. Then you
I
got,
was going to say that Bob Davis. That's good.
then
Yeah.
next to him is Doug Kimball,
Okay.
Arlen's son.
Yeah.
I dated Doug's sister in high school. I'm not sure she knew it, but
That sounds like Carroll.
yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you must have got
Then-
that from Carroll.
One date, it's over.
Then
It-
well, I used to
it-
get free tickets to the Little Theater in Sullivan, and they'd send me 2 tickets, so I'd take her to the theater down in Sullivan. And
Did
then
you guys read the Carroll's thing on nicknames this week?
I haven't read it yet.
Yes, I did. I did.
It's good.
It is a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good.
Is Arlen Kimball still living or not?
I don't know. His wife's name was Mike, and she was an aide.
Yes.
Eventually became a full-time teacher at Tuscola.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She
Well,
had
he
to
was
help
always,
him out.
he always had there's an old country western singer, and Bill Anderson.
No,
Yeah.
you're thinking of the other Kimball. You're thinking of Art.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Well, Dave might remember Art Kimball because he was involved with the newspaper, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know him, but I knew of him. And Eric Alexander says Doug Kimball, but I think that might be David Kimball.
Is that one of the Bennettts back there on the far right with glasses?
The far right is Glenn Hetker.
Oh yes, yeah, I
Seriously?
remember.
That's
Yeah,
Glenn? That didn't look like Glenn.
Yeah, mother had
Julie.
Yeah,
Mhm.
at the corner grocery.
Glenn was a short kid. I remember that.
He was smart, real
Very
smart.
smart.
Last I knew, he was in Japan,
Yes.
and Kimball was a math teacher in Chatham.
Hmm.
And then front row, according to Eric Alexander's Tony Travis, Mary Statzer, Paula Hancock, and Teresa Brown.
We'll look at that again because Teresa, I always thought the world of her. She played ball for me.
And Alan Weaver says the other girl is Jada Johnson.
No,
Oh,
no.
the second one in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dark
Her
hair.
brother Libro was in my class.
That's Tony in the front there. Yeah, I see the face.
Yeah,
And,
see a little bit of her mother.
Very much so.
Mary Statzer in the middle. Her mother was my grade 6 teacher.
Yep.
Yep.
Lynn and I taught together.
These are
Duff Hole.
my
Duff.
class.
Johnny Kleiss.
Johnny Kleiss, Colleen Hartman, Lori Gangloff.
Nope. Lori would be older. That's Melanie Myers
On the far right,
on the far right.
in the back. Okay.
It's Kim Griffith in the middle.
Yeah, that's Kim Griffith.
And left to right on the front, that's Dana Stinger, Kim Griffith,
Oh yeah,
and, Melanie Melanson. Is it Melanie? Yeah.
Linda was her big sister.
Karen Melanson.
Or Linda.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Karen.
David Melanson, Linda Melanson.
Yeah. So these are all my class. I think these were, I'm guessing, probably inducted into the National Honor Society, which I think that last picture was probably juniors inducted, and these are probably seniors inducted.
Mm.
okay, good band. Yeah,
I was inducted as a junior, so I wasn't in this picture. My wife was too.
yeah. I knew all these. Cindy Bekovich and Cheryl
Cheryl
Bozarth,
Bozarth, Sue
and
Sanderson.
Sue Sanderson Snyder, and Helen Lee, and Sandy
No, Peggy.
Peggy Helm,
Hausman.
Peggy Hausman Helm.
This is at Tuscola National Bank.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I recognize that vault that's still there.
Yeah.
City Hall now.
Yeah. That's Peggy and Helen again.
Helen Lee was really a nice gal.
Yeah, she
Yes.
was nice lady. She had that tough time at the end, but her husband was sick for several years, and
Yeah, Joe.
yeah. That would have all been, that's long before the bank moved.
Boy, that's long before the bank moved. And I was going to say, Sue went to Cabot, and of course, Cindy went to Champaign, worked for U of I think.
Yes,
she
that's
did.
right. Yeah.
Cheryl stayed.
And Cheryl stayed with the bank the whole way through.
Right. Oh, Johnny Brookins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you know the rest of them, Bill? I don't recognize the rest of them.
Okay, well, that's Brookins.
Is that 21 a Miller? One with number 21, is that a Miller?
Oh, you're thinking of Sherry's boy? No.
Yes.
No.
That's not him.
He was he was tall.
He was in
That's not
the 9 class.
Is that Tom Weimer, the tall one?
No.
No, I don't think so.
The one on the right might be Bill Fruit, and next to him might be Scott Von Lanken. And the 22 could be Dan Meyer. I'm not sure.
22 could be Dan Meyer.
Yeah. And you know, Bill, I think that's at Shiloh.
Shiloh Holiday Tournament.
Yeah. Yeah.
These are all my class, but the picture's not very good, so it's hard to tell sometimes.
It is hard to tell. Now, that team in grade school gave me fits.
Yeah.
I coached at Arcola at that time, grade school. Golly, when they were in the 8th grade.
Yeah.
Well, we went to state in 7th and 8th grade both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
That was that's one of my sad stories, because I remember we had 27 guys on our basketball team. And I remember that. I remember that because we had different colored practice uniforms. So we had a first team, five people all wore the same color, the second team, third team, fourth team, fifth team. I was one of 2 people who didn't have a colored jersey, which means I was either 26th or 27th on the team. It was me and Lee Grimm, didn't have colored practice jerseys. But then Brian Harris did something wrong or didn't do something and had to give up his jersey and had to go, and he went to me, which showed that I was number 26 and not number 27 on the team. And so the coach had him take off his practice jersey and give it to me, and I had to put it on, which was, of course, soaked with his sweat. So I'm not sure who the real winner and loser was in that deal. But I think by the end of the day, I had to give it back.
You know them, Bill.
That's Alan Greenlee.
Yep. And
John Murray.
Big John Murray.
John Murray on the right.
Alan Greenlee played at Crispin for Beals.
Yes.
I believe.
He did. That's correct.
Really good ball player.
And I think he coached at every team along Route 1 there from Danville South.
I believe so.
To include Shiloh.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, he did coach Shiloh.
Yeah.
John Murray, that's a good picture of John.
That's really good, isn't it? Yeah.
John was the tallest one in the class, and in football, they kept pairing him up against me in practice because they wanted him to have to get down lower. I was the smallest guy, so they pitted the biggest guy on the team against the smallest guy on the team. And I got my ass pounded on a daily basis.
Every year we first moved out in Parkview, and we had a huge window air conditioner, and no one would help me with it. But I'd get John Murray, pay him a couple of dollars, and John would help me lift it into the window. He was a strong boy.
I've got a good story about John Murray. Of course, they lived in the neighborhood or where I grew up or where I lived. John came in the lumberyard one day and he showed me this picture. He said, "You recognize this?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." He at some point in time, my grandmother had given the Murray family a stand-up Philco radio that my granddad used to listen to all the Cubs games and all the ball games and stuff. And that, even before the days of the television. And anyway, John got that, and he had taken it to somebody over in Indianapolis and had it totally restored. And this thing was beautiful. And but I'll never forget him coming in. I hadn't seen John for a long time, and he came in the lumber garden one day and showed me that picture of that thing, and it really brought back a lot of memories of my granddad.
I'll be darned. That's neat.
Here we are again, John Brookins with
Brookins.
Kerry Kincaid.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is the one with his arms crossed, is that a Boris?
Yeah, I didn't recognize him at first. That's
Neil?
Neil Boris. People kind of recognize him by his stance there.
Yeah.
And then Scott Von Lincoln on the right.
Okay.
And could be Bill Fruit, the tall one there.
I wonder if this is not a second place trophy.
It could be Dan Meyer between Bill and John.
I'll see John Brookins and ask him.
Yeah, John probably know.
Oh yeah, he can tell you the score. Okay, that's Jana Carey Rodmaker back there with the tie on.
Yeah.
Kim, is that Kim?
That's Sharon Cleland.
Sharon Cleland's next. Who's next to Jana?
Yeah. That's really the only one that I recognize.
Is it Jana or Julie?
It's Jana. The twins, Carey twins.
It's Julie Baird.
Yeah, Julie's Baird. She's married to John Baird.
And then Sharon Cleland and Cheryl Page.
Cheryl Page.
Okay.
And then,
there you go, Cheryl Page.
Then Janice says the first lady was Kate Ursham from Sullivan area.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Look at those interest rates.
The interest rates, yeah. Old Tony
Manzella.
Yeah.
Little
LT. Good guy.
I don't know what the parrot's name was.
No, me neither.
Yeah. I don't see the parrot's name on the comments.
Yeah.
Well, that's it.
That's it, huh? Well, that's not bad.
Well, we did all right.
We didn't do too bad.
Short show.
I'm sure that's better than Carroll.
Well,
probably about 98%.
Well, we can say whatever we want about Mike because he's never going to see this.
Well, he might be watching right now. We don't know that.
I'm going to tell you something, David. He will see it. Yeah. Yeah. Probably, truth be known, he's already heard about it, and he's chomping at the bit to see it.
He's chomping at the bit to get back on the show. We know that's what.
He's ready to go.
If he missed this week's paycheck, he doesn't know what he's going to do.
Oh, I tell you what, it's a lost day.
Well, Bill, you came in late, so you didn't hear what I said whenever we first came on.
No, I didn't hear the introductions.
These are the two people who are going to play Mike and Bill in the movie.
Yeah.
These are the actors, the better looking versions.
Yeah, that's right.
No, he won't appreciate that at all. He wouldn't appreciate that. Well, sometimes, we have Becky commenting in the background. She'll lend a hand every now and then to us.
That's right.
Yeah. Miss my partner on Thursday afternoons. We have a good time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, Bob and I get together about at least, we've been doing the good thing. So about twice a week, we've been going up to the fitness center and doing a little exercising. we spend a little more time visiting sometimes than we do exercising. But,
I was going to say
it's an attempt. It's an attempt, and then Fridays we usually head down to Arthur, down to Shady Crest to have a little lunch.
That's right.
And on those days when we miss there, then we end up going to Mattoon so that we can, and we go down early. So we get before 12, we have to get to the Holy Moly Donut Shop. and then after that, then we go over to the original Burger King and have a little lunch.
Now, I've been there with Carroll. I've been to the Holy Moly. He's got a hat.
Yeah, he's got a Holy Moly hat.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the Holy Moly's pretty good. It's about as good. It ranks right there, really close to the Tuscola Donut, Dallas family donut shop.
That was, I don't know if you guys summed it up at the beginning here. Of course, remembering Tuscola, and we can remember in our era the special times, but even after we were out of high school, when they opened that donut shop, I think in the early 70s, my goodness, wasn't that something? Everybody gather in there, especially during harvest time.
Oh, yeah.
Trucks to be lined up at that elevator, and people would be in that donut shop. You saw everybody in town.
Yeah.
That was
a lot of always got me is the kid, especially when it had too much snow, the kids couldn't get to school, but the dads were all in the donut shop that morning, so they could have gotten
there. You wondered how that happened, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, David, these boys also remember old-fashioned days, and when all the storefronts in Tuscola were lit up on a Friday night.
Yep.
Those were special times for us growing up.
I was on the Chamber of Commerce when they voted to do away with old-fashioned days, and I was the lone vote against doing away with it.
Yeah, it was a fun time. Yeah, it was a fun time. But the downtown Tuscola right now is probably as good with things going on down there as it has been in a long time.
There's quite a bit going on
with Joe's and Flesser's and Cast Iron Pub, and now Bookies and
Hometown
some of that stuff, and the coffee shop, the new coffee shop.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of things. It doesn't look as deserted as it did a few years ago.
Right. The vault does a lot of things.
Yes, they do.
The vault does do a lot of things, and that's good to see, and we like seeing that.
Yeah.
But we enjoy the show, David, so much because we get these old pictures and we can sit and talk about them and tell lies.
That's right. That's true.
Well, you guys,
I told David I've got a few I'm going to send him, and we'll see how you guys do on the next round. I got a few old pictures that
good.
I'll try to send
you guys can join us anytime you want.
Okay. All right. Well, it's been fun.
Now, wait a minute. Run that by me. I have my vote.
It's been fun. We've talked about doing it for a long time. And,
good for you.
I think it's good. So
Well, you guys have a good rest of your day. I've got to go to Arthur. You said Shady Crest, and I'm headed there now with another errand. So.
Well, I don't know if they're still serving lunch or not. It's getting a little late.
3:30.
Ice cream.
You can still get ice cream.
Boy, that ice cream's sinful.
Yes, it is. It's pretty sinful. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, boy.
That's
good. I can say with certainty that this is the most watched program on Tuscola history on YouTube. So,
well, that's right.
I think it's the only one as well.
Yeah. That's why it's number one.
That's right. Why it's number one.
True.
Well, if people have nothing else to do, they tune in.
That's true. That's true.
Right.
Thanks a lot, David. I've got to get going.
Anything else?
To see you and Bob.
Okay.
See you,
Bill.
Take care.
We'll
see you later.
David, thanks for all you do.
Well, thanks
really
for coming on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's fun.
Anything else before I stop?
No, I don't know any other words of wisdom. I haven't heard anything of anything exciting that's just breaking news anyway. We want to be the first one on the scene, you know, with
I've
the
got an
breaking
idea
news.
though, Mitch.
What's that?
We could schedule maybe one of these telecasts when we go up to Webb Lake.
Well, that's true. We do we have that group that Bob mentioned earlier, Jim Wright, Tim Limna. Tim lives out in Connecticut, and Gail Reeder, who lives out in California, and Denny Shuey, who lives in Savoy, and Bob and myself, and Max Albritton, who lives in Bloomington. We travel once a year up to Jim's cabin up in Wisconsin, and all get together and tell war stories about what happened 60 years ago. And that we could probably connect with you the next time if we're up and be up there and you're online, we might request a connection.
Well, you got my number anytime you want.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks again, Dave. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on. We'll see everybody next week on Remembering Tuscola.